feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Total Apex Media's Off the Wall podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, alongside my co-host, Brandon. How are you doing this Sunday night, Brandon?
Doing good. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there that's watching. Hope y'all had a good Mother's Day. We'll break down some MLB Mother's Day moments here shortly as part of the show, but let's get into it.
Absolutely. So I first off want to apologize. Obviously, we've had a couple weeks off. There's been some scheduling things, and me personally working never-ending hours and then forgetting about rescheduling and whatnot. So I apologize to anybody watching. So we've got a lot of news to sort of go over. Obviously, the biggest news over the last couple weeks was the Philadelphia Phillies followed suit with the Boston Red Sox and ultimately fired their head coach, Rob Thomson, which we were actually talking about a little bit at the time that Alex Cora got fired. You know, and sort of talk about the Phillies maybe needing to make a move and having some precedent for that when Rob Thomson was the one that replaced Gabe Kapler, right? And sort of shook some things up. And so now we've got the same thing happening in Philadelphia. We're going to break that down a little bit more and sort of what it looks like for Philadelphia in a later segment. But that was pretty big news. What did you think of just in general? Your thoughts
the news in general is it was time. I mean, I feel like Thomson got stale for that franchise. And his messaging, got stale, and you can't running back and be like one of the worst teams in the East and be like, okay, without change. So far the change, we'll break it down a little bit more here, but I'll say Don Mattingly has infused new life. We'll break it down shortly after we finish the roundup, but it's been a positive for Philadelphia so far. So I'll say.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly more of a positive than the Red Sox have had, although as we'll touch base on a little bit with injuries, part of that has certainly been the injury bug has bit the Red Sox too a little bit. Speaking of the Red Sox, another big sort of controversial moment that happened this week, Framber Valdez, obviously pitcher now for Detroit, he had that sort of controversial situation last year with the Houston Astros where he crossed up his own catcher because he was mad at him, right? And ended up essentially hitting his own catcher. And that sort of took the news by storm. And now against the Red Sox this week, he gave up back-to-back homers, 3 overall, had been hammered for 10 runs. And there's some debate on why he did it, but pretty obviously intentionally threw at Trevor Story and hit him in the back.
Yep.
And so that sort of caused some waves around the MLB, just sort of talk about Framber Valdez's, immaturity. And, twice now he's essentially tried to hurt people because he hasn't been doing a job. Now, at first, people had said it was because he wanted a way to get out of the game because his coach was making him stay in there because to eat up the inning, basically, because they needed the innings. And now it's come out he's claiming that he had caught the Red Sox were stealing his signs, and that's why they were getting hits off him, and so he wanted to send a message. I mean, either way, it's not good. You don't throw intentionally at people no matter what the reasoning is. Even if that is, in fact, what he felt was that they were stealing signs, especially since stealing signs in and of themselves is not against baseball rules, right? Like people have been doing it all the time, relaying, catcher signals from second base. It's how you do it. Obviously the sign stealing scandal with the Astros was a bit different because it used technology, and the Red Sox had some controversy with their iPads as well and things like that. But just in general, in play, it's not banned to, pick up on signs if the other team is giving them away, So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Framber Valdez. I mean, this is becoming a pattern with him, right?
Yeah, it's a pattern. It's a bad pattern. It feels as an Orioles fan, I do feel relieved that we didn't get him because of because of his antics, but he has not been performing well either on the field. I find it weird that he gets a 6-game suspension, meaning he only misses one start.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about pitcher suspensions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do it for 6 to 5 or something, like when they get suspended 6 to 7, they only miss one start normally for their suspensions. It's not like a position player. If they get suspended, they miss those full slate of games.
Exactly.
Pitcher, starting pitcher, you're only one. You're pitching one every 5 days, so it's not like you're impacted by a suspension. So I find that to be like, okay, like I get it. It's a slap in the wrist, and I get what he did was kind of a slap in the wrist kind of a thing. But like, I don't know. I feel like they should like modify these pitcher suspension, like when they do suspensions for pitchers. If it's serious like that and it's a repeat offense, I would think it should be a 2-start minimum suspension. It's a hot take. It's probably going to be a hot take. But it's just my opinion on the matter because
I agree. Yeah. I agree, and there's no easy way to do that, right? Because obviously, if you say, "Oh, you missed 3 starts," there could be wiggle room and sticking people in the bullpen in between then. Versus if you suspend somebody for just a straight 15 games, then obviously pitchers are going to argue, "Oh, that's disproportional." Because technically, when you're suspended, you can't be in with the team at all, right? In the dugout or anything like that, presumably, and so that is a factor. I mean, I think the reality is the Players Association would never go for they want it to be relatively equal,
right,
or equivalent. But I agree. I mean, if you're a player and you get suspended 4 or 5 games, you're missing 4 or 5 games. Pitchers are missing 1 game. It does seem a bit. But at the same time, if you look at it in the percentage of games they play, then it's equivalent because you start 30 games in a season, miss 1, that's 1/30th of your season. You play 150 games as a position player, miss 3. I mean, that's not crazy different, right? That would be what, about 30, 25, 20%, something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess it's relatively equivalent, in that regard. So, but I don't know. It's a hard topic, to.
It's a hard discussion to have because for me, it's like, okay, like relative to the punishment, I guess the 4 or 5 game suspension is fine. The missing one start is fine, but if it's a repeat offense, I guess they would amp it. But I don't know if it would be so that's why I would think like missing 2 starts would have been sufficient. I felt like. So
I agree. Well, he didn't actually get suspended for crossing up his catcher, right? Because
no.
Yeah, so they probably, by the textbook definition of this thing, it's probably not considered a quote repeat offense, even though we all consider it a repeat offense because of obviously what he did to his catcher was awful, but in suspension terms, this is technically his first offense, right?
Right. And also too, he's able to work out with us even though he can't stay for games. So basically he can still practice with the team.
Yeah.
Which I find crazy. Like the fact that he's still able to like work out with the team and stuff like that. I'm mind boggled by that. But
absolutely. Did you have any other headlines you wanted to highlight specifically in terms of news?
I would say Jackson Holliday is starting his rehab stint with Baltimore. That is something, and I think Albernaz is looking at him to do some third base in that rehab assignment down in Double-A. They're working him up through Double-A through Triple-A, and I think it's smart to try Jackson at third because, to be honest, the third base options for Baltimore right now have not been great. Blaze Alexander has been okay, but not great. Mayo has been horrible. Alexander's been the better, like way better defender than Mayo, and Mayo had the error that cost the Orioles the other night against Miami, which would have had a series sweep if they, got through that one. But for that game, and then they lost 2 out of 3 against the Athletics over the weekend. Lost Friday and Saturday, and Mayo just not hitting the baseball at 160 average, and he was supposed to be a highly touted prospect, and he's not finding it. So if Holiday can play third, like field the position of third base, and his bat is still Jackson Holiday level bat, I would not mind that and keep Jeremiah Jackson in the lineup. That's a way to do it. So it's good for Alvarez to actually try to experiment during his rehab assignment, because they need something, because the Jordan Westbrook situation has gotten worse too. Like a couple weeks ago, they said that he had a sit out of throwing because of irritation in the elbow. They're getting a reevaluation on Westbrook. Probably this week, I think they said they're going to reevaluate Westbrook. For Baltimore to try to get him back to throwing again. I can look it up. I can look at that up real quick. It has a follow-up appointment on tomorrow. Okay. Per Alvarez. So, and then he will play third. Holiday technically played for Czechs to be at third today.
Okay.
So, and his rehab game today. I'm not 100% sure what he did in that game today. I don't have the full details on it, but I just knew that they were going to play him at third to see how it goes. And it would be if Holiday gets through that rehab assignment and gets back with Baltimore and they feel like he can play the position of third, I would rather have that and keep Jeremiah Jackson in the lineup at second. But if they want to have Jeremiah Jackson at third and Holiday at second, either way, it's getting Holiday. If you can get Holiday back in his Orioles lineup and keep Jeremiah Jackson the way he's been hitting, he's had a little bit of a down slump since the end of April. Still, I feel like I'd rather have Jackson and Holiday in the lineup at all times. Right now. But we'll wait and see on that. That was the one big Baltimore update. There was a couple other like minor, a lot of pitcher injuries. There's the Rogers 15 or IL stint because of an illness. He's still out. Couple other big ones. With the pitching rotation, they brought the Gibson kid. Brought him up against the Yankees and sent him down, then brought him up against the Athletics on Friday to throw in the bullpen in a 1-run game, which he ended up making it a 2-run game, and they couldn't quite come back. But yeah, those are the few developments that I had from Baltimore's perspective that needed to be covered over the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'd say the biggest Red Sox news is actually sort of sliding into our next section, which is the injuries. And there's been a lot of major injuries throughout the league, right? But the Red Sox recently, over the last couple weeks, at this point, lost Garrett Crochet, their best pitcher. They lost Roman Anthony, arguably their best hitter, maybe not statistically, but certainly was supposed to be one of the best hitters. Wilson Contreras got hurt today. Supposedly the x-rays or the imaging came back negative, and they're thinking it's going to be short term. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But he was potentially hurt there. We've got Sonny Gray already down. We have Ranger Suarez already down. We have 2 of our depth pieces have never come back, the way they were supposed to, Crawford and oh my goodness. Yeah, I've lost him, the lefty that we had gotten from the Angels that we hasn't pitched a single inning for us. He went right out of my brain. Oviedo, who we traded for, he's been down. He was bad and then was down for most of the season. So it's funny. We were looking at that Red Sox depth, especially on the pitching side, to start the season. We were talking about how wonderful the depth was. and it's being immediately tested here, right? In a way that has been sort of brutal, and then obviously, that hasn't helped Chad Tracy, but really we haven't seen much of a turnaround for the Red Sox overall since the firing. I mean, you saw a little bit of an uptick. We've won a few more games. Maybe the offense is doing a little bit better, but it's still super inconsistent. We'll win a couple games, then we lose a couple games, win a game, lose a game. There's still no consistency there, and obviously, like I said, health is a major factor to that, but just in general, there's something off about this team. The more I go into, I don't think that the Red Sox need to give up. They have the talent there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe not right now because they're all hurt, but the talent should be there to do well. But there's something off about the team. And I talked about Bregman being a major signing for the Cubs, less statistically and more for his leadership capability. And it does feel like there's something missing there. Some of our veteran players have been a little bit less leadership-y. Wilson Contreras hasn't exactly been the best model for the younger players, essentially coming out publicly and blaming them for losses, to the point where Marcelo Mayer had to come out and basically be like, I don't know why he's blaming us. It's a whole team thing, so that wasn't good. Trevor Story obviously publicly calling out Craig Breslow repeatedly, hasn't exactly been ideal. And he's one of the better leaders supposedly in the clubhouse, right? And so it just seems like there's something that's not quite right there. And I don't know if they're gonna figure it out anytime soon.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Red Sox has dealt with injuries all year. Another team's dealt with them all year is obviously Baltimore, like I laid out. There's a few, like you said, other key injuries which we'll get to, but I think the two teams that have dealt with injuries overall in the AL East are probably the teams that need those players the most. Is our two teams. It's crazy, especially the Westberg and Holiday injuries for Baltimore. Really, I feel like that's derailed this offense a little bit at times because lineup flexibility is not the same. Especially without Holiday and without Westberg at the same time too. But it's just, I don't know, it's crazy because Baltimore struggles against left-handed pitching is prevalent once again. It's been a problem the last few years, and I think it's one of those situations. The injuries are it's not ruining the game, but it's ruining the game for certain teams. So,
absolutely. And I agree. I think those are the two teams in the AL East that are struggling the most. There are some bigger names coming back soon for other teams. Mookie Betts is supposedly coming back for the Dodgers. I think they said tomorrow, maybe, even, which is going to be obviously big for them. They've sort of had some trouble finding some consistency on offense recently, so it'll be interesting to see him coming back if that helps them out at all. But yeah, I think it just now with the way that the players play, between the insane velocities that we keep seeing, which actually brings me to one other news point I did want to touch on really quickly. But between the velocities and such high strain that the pitchers go through, and then some of the swings that some of the batters are taking, no team has enough depth. No matter how much depth you think you have, it's not enough. You know, it's kind of crazy. But that does actually bring me up to Mizorowski for the Brewers, who I forgot about. But he hit, what was it, 10 times? I think he topped 103.
Yes.
In his most recent game, I believe, which was absolutely insane. And he's the type of pitcher. It seems like the Brewers kind of come up with these pitchers, all the time, right? Just, he wasn't exactly a highly touted name per se coming up. He wasn't. He wasn't a number one prospect or anything like that. He sort of came up and surprised some people a little bit last year with his performance. He just kept it rolling this year, but it feels like the Brewers just crank these types of pitchers out. Every year they find somebody, right? Last year, this year, Mizorowski, obviously they had Peralta, they had Woodruff, They had Burns. It's just like every time you turn around, they're finding somebody else. No matter how many times they lose players,
Yeah.
it's very interesting to see their sort of pitching development, and how that takes place. But at the same time, I worry. 103 miles per hour 10 times in a game.
Yeah.
I mean that puts some pressure on your shoulder and your elbow and everything. It's not natural to
No,
throw
it's
that
not.
hard that much.
Yeah, the Brewers swept the Yankees with like a couple like walk-offs, in the end at the end of the game, the last two games. Today was Terang's walk-off. And that series was an interesting. I'm glad you brought up Mr. Rowski yesterday against them. With his 10 pitches over 100, close to 100, 304, and it's crazy that the Brewers the NL Central as a whole has been crazy because the Cubs just had their 10-game win streak end the other day, but they were on a roll. The Brewers are on a roll. The Pittsburgh Pirates are stable. The Reds are stabilized. And the Cardinals are actually winning games too, right now. And it's
the NL Central is what we thought the AL East was going to be, right?
Yeah.
With 5 teams above 500 essentially, or potentially in the running all season long.
Yeah, that's what it's a weird concept that right now with the NL Central because the Pirates are in a 6-6 game right now as we're live with the Giants with no outs. That's going on live right now. They had the Brewers sweep one of the best teams in the AL and the Yankees this weekend, like at 22-16. I can pop up the standings real quick. And since we're probably not going to break down the whole standings, we'll just talk about the NL Central today. Club 27-14. Then you got the Brewers. Then you got the Cardinals, and then the Pirates and Reds, all above 500, and they would probably leading or be in second place. Like all of those other teams would be close to second place in the NL East right now because the NL East, you got 4 teams, 19-22, and then you got the Mets at 15-25. And the same for the weird part with the Yankees sweep. Tampa is in first place in the AL East again. So
that's what I was going to say. I was actually going to bring up the AL in general, really, and outside of stunning by the Tampa. Although we both said it, you can never truly count out the Rays because they just find ways to make things happen, right? And then of course we kind of knew the Yankees would be up there. I mean, they've been a bit inconsistent. Obviously got swept this weekend, but by and large they were going to be up there. But the entire rest of the AL is essentially 500 or below, right? There is nobody else. I mean, the only other team even above 500 at this point is the Athletics. At 21-19, the AL in general is just crazy right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna give Chandler Simpson a shout real quick because Simpson had leading them in hits at a 305 average, 12 steals on the year already. He's got 11 ribbies. He's not gonna hit. I don't think he'll have a home run all year. I just don't think he will. But he might. You never know. He might. He never had that kind of pop in his career.
Exactly.
As a whole, and going up through the majors, the minors and stuff like that, he never had that pop in his bat. And it's I find it interesting how they're using him in the games too, because he had a really good series against New York a couple series ago. I think he hit the ball well, and Aaron Boone, was on with the Talking Yanks guys with John Boy, that pod, and he was on there, and I saw Aaron Boone talk about Simpson and his speed, and he compared it to Deion Sanders because he played with Deion in Cincinnati, and I was like, yeah, like it's a good comparison because Chandler Simpson's speed is like an NFL corner, like it really is. He's like probably gonna be the fastest player in MLB. But that also brings up Bobby Witt over the weekend having the first inside the park of the season in the game last night as well. So, or one of the first inside of the year, but I think it was the first. I might be wrong if someone was. If someone wants to correct me in the comments, that's cool. But I think I'm gonna stick by. I think it is the But that's the thing. Caminero still has among league leaders in home runs, 11. Like the Rays are an impressive team. So
Yeah. Well, and the thing about what's always so impressive about the Rays, right? And I talked about this before too, is they don't try to build their team to follow the trends of the MLB.
right,
They run their team with what they have on their team, and they
right,
create the trends, right? Because they don't try to be something they're not. They're not asking, Chandler Simpson to be a 20 home run guy because everybody in the MLB is hitting home runs, right? They're
mm-hmm.
just letting him use his speed and be what his assets are, right?
Yeah,
They're not trying to form this team that competes, with the power of the Yankees. They're not trying to create this, this starting rotation that is like 1 through 5, like all-star gems, right? They just go with what they have and pitch to what they have and hit to what they have. And,
right.
they play small ball and they do what they need to do to win games, which is why I think Cash is probably the most, and I don't know how underrated he is per se, but he doesn't get nearly as much credit as I think he should for how he manages that team year in, year out,
Yeah, so Carroll leads the league right now in triples. Simpson is tied for second with 3. Perdomo, ironically, Arizona has 2 of the leaders in triples, and Carroll and Perdomo. I think that the Chase Field plays a part of that because
I was gonna say that field is quite unique, and I would say that Arizona is one of those teams that does similar to Tampa Bay too, where they play to their strengths.
Yeah, I mean they have home run hitters on Arizona. I think they have more power in Arizona than they do in Tampa.
They do. I think they have a better roster on paper by
Mhm.
far than Tampa Bay. At least on paper. But
You don't want to know who also has 3 that is like a little shocking to me too. Cody Bellinger. He's got 3 triples right now. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder how that happened. He doesn't strike. I mean, not that he's like slow, but he just doesn't strike me as like a triple
guy that
hitter,
can go from first, get the third a lot.
Especially in that tiny ballpark, in Yankee Stadium,
Yeah, I think a lot of them. I think there was like a couple of them on the road. I don't think he might have one in Yankee Stadium because someone misplayed. Like some of those triples, they rule triples because like it kind of been like a slight misplay, but I just did not classify an error or something like that. But it's just it's crazy to me that he had a he's like 3 triples. Yeah, I was looking. I was like, I would expect like a PCA or Xavier Edwards or someone like that at 3 triples, not Bellinger. I thought that was just looking that up because I just wanted to see who was around Simpson right now at triples.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was like, okay, he's third. I was like, oh, maybe Bobby Witt's there, and no, it's Perdomo and Bellinger with him at 3, and then Carroll was leading the league at 4. So,
well, and Carroll makes some sense too. He's always been super well rounded himself. So,
Carroll makes sense for 4. I think Perdomo makes sense because of the Chase Field, and he's got some speed to him as well. But Bellinger at 3, I was like, dang, he must have got some that got against had a weird hop and he was able to get the third on him. But it's hey, Bellinger is no slouch. I'm not with his legs like you said, but no, it's crazy. I'll go ahead too and do home runs real quick. If I can, I'll do that because I think Murakami was still one of the league leaders in home runs.
Well, now I will say Schwarber. I was actually going to say him a little bit with the Phillies turnaround, but he's hit 4 games in a row now. He's now tied for the league lead, I believe, in home runs now.
Since you brought up Schwarber, we can get into the Phillies. So
okay, So obviously the Phillies have terminated their coach. We already kind of covered that. But since that time, I mean, over their last 10, they've gone 7-3, right? So
it was 9-3 over the last 12 since he got fired.
9-3 over the last 12. Okay, cool. Yeah, which just tells you how bad they were, right? There's still 3 games below 500. There's still 9 games back of Atlanta. Atlanta's kind of running away with that right now, right? But the fact is the Phillies have been playing better. They feel like they've been playing with a little bit more energy. They feel like they've been, it almost felt like they were going through the motions to start the year. Like it just didn't feel like the Phillies, right? Offensively or pitching wise, it just felt like there was something missing there.
Yeah.
Despite having the pieces to contend. I mean, they have the offense, they have the pitching, they have a closer, right? So they should have been doing better than they were. And I think now we're more just seeing what they should have been all along. And as we talked about, when we were talking about potentially whether the Phillies would do this, there is some precedence here for them turning a season around, firing a coach early and turning a season around and ultimately landing in the playoffs and having some success there.
Yeah.
Right. And so we see that now, obviously, there's still a long season to go. Again, Atlanta is sort of running away with it, and they're not even fully healthy. Atlanta isn't, so
that was something. Yeah, that you brought up the Atlanta not healthy. They just lost Acuna for a few weeks, and we forgot to cover that.
Yeah,
but that was one we forgot to cover. But tying it back to what you're saying about Atlanta running away and the Phillies, how they're playing, I feel like Philly is, one of those teams that gets hot when the temperatures start to warm up more so. I feel like they've had struggles in April before with this squad, and they get hot when the temperatures go warmer and the ball is starting to fly out of Citizens Bank a little bit more. And I think this is one of those situations. I think the Phillies are finally getting the exit velos and getting the results they want from that team. Don Mattingly has given them some life as the interim. I feel like he's given them more life than, like you said, with Boston earlier, because he's had experience managing a team before in MLB. He managed the Yankees. He's managed Marlins. He's managed several teams in his career as the manager. So he knows how to maybe talk to these guys, especially Bryce and Trey Turner, guys that were struggling. So it's interesting. It's also interesting too when you look at their opponents. I think they played the Rockies this weekend, who's one of the worst teams in baseball right now. And then you got. So let's see. They played the Rockies. They swept them basically. I don't know. They lost the first game.
They lost one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they lost the first one. They lost to the Athletics one of the games. So they lost two in a row before they won the last two of the weekend. They do have they have an interesting series this next weekend. This next week starting on Tuesday. They play the Red Sox in Fenway. So that's going to be an interesting series to see which team of the two interims to see which team gets the turnaround in Fenway. But before that, in May they swept the Marlins in a 4-game set, and then they split, and then they get so. They had the Marlins. They had the Athletics, who I think the Athletics are a sneaky team after seeing.
Yeah, they're technically winning their division right now. The Athletics.
Yeah. They're a sneaky team, so I'll give them credit against that team. But then the Rockies aren't great, even though they're playing better than the Mets right now, the local Mets. And then, so like I said, they got the Red Sox coming up. Then they go to Pittsburgh. Then they got Cincinnati in a homestead, and then Cleveland. We'll find out. Actually at the end of the month and see if this is legit, because at the end of the month, just after Memorial Day, it's the Phillies Dodgers in LA.
Yeah,
for a 3-game set. That will be it. That will be the series that maybe solidifies this Phillies team if they can actually compete, because we just saw Atlanta last night compete with this weekend we compete with the Dodgers as well. So absolutely. And they actually held their own in a couple of the games. I think they were. Let me look at it real quick, make sure I had that right in my head. So they won 2 of 3 against LA over the weekend. Atlanta did. So. Looking at that. So if Philly can do something similar to that at the end of the month against LA, I would consider them turn around and ready to compete
Yeah.
If not, I would go with you and say the Braves are probably going to run away with the division.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Well, and I mean, I think you bring up a good point about them having slow starts before. I do. I think even last season, I believe they started off a little slow.
yeah,
If I remember, because I think that was the year Miami was starting off strong,
yeah,
maybe or something, and was surprising people. I can't remember. Maybe that was 2 years ago, but
right,
it makes some sense too, right? Because essentially, both the Phillies' strength and their weakness is they're built around home runs, right? Their
yeah,
offenses.
yeah,
I mean, they have a ton of batters that hit home runs and strike out. That's what they've sort of predicated their offense on. They're not really great at generating runs. So it makes sense that as the weather warms up, you're starting balls are flying a little bit more, that their offense would get better, and they'd start hitting more home runs. Guys like Schwarber would start hitting more home runs, who's notorious for starting a little slow, and then finishing really hot. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Like you said, they haven't exactly played competition. I'm not entirely sure Boston's gonna be much competition either.
That's why. That's why when I was looking at the May schedule for Philadelphia, it did soften up. Like
Yeah,
you got the Pirates. That Pirates series could be something for Philly as well, even though the Pirates are a young team.
yeah,
I think they might face Skeens, but it just depends on if the
yeah.
rotations sync up.
Yeah. Well,
And
and the
by that,
Pirates, I mean, they're 22 and 18. They haven't really fully slipped either. Like they've over their last 10, they're 6-4. They seem to just be hovering and sort of cruising along. A little bit above 500, doing their
right.
thing. So they're not an easy out by any means.
Yeah, that series starts Friday. It'd be Ashcraft against Nola for one of the games, probably. Projected. This is projected starters in that
Got it.
series against Pittsburgh. Bubba Chandler against Christopher Sanchez. Phillies. That would be a Phillies advantage rotation wise, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do get Skeens and Wheeler. So we do get that matchup.
Okay.
Projected in the finale on May 17th.
Okay. That'd be exciting.
That'd be exciting.
Is that the Sunday night baseball game? If it's not,
no, it's an afternoon.
That's a good matchup.
I wish it was NBC Sunday Night Baseball, but
I
it's
know,
not.
right?
It's the 1:35 game that day on the afternoon. So on MLB TV, I think it is. Yeah, MLB TV. So it's one of the local games that day in the afternoon. So if you're in Philly, probably on NBC Sports Philadelphia will have that game. If you got MLB TV, that would be a fun one to watch. But the Phillies, the Pittsburgh series and the Dodgers series are the two measuring stick series for you guys for Philadelphia in May to be like, okay, if you want to get back after like what happened this weekend, the Flyers losing to probably the Stanley Cup favorites in Carolina, and what happened today, the massacre of the next coming in Philly and doing what they did against the Hawks in a closeout situation in a sweep of the Sixers. So Philly might need something to get hype about until the Eagles play in September. But if the Phillies actually start playing like they're capable of in this Pittsburgh and Dodgers series, Philadelphia might get rally right behind the Phillies again until late September, October. If they can make a playoff push, and we'll see what happens. I mean, the Phillies have the talent to make it, and they've done it before after being down in certain circumstances. Just look at the 22 season; they weren't expected Philadelphia to make the World Series that year, and they did. So that city is a passionate sports town, and they need something good to go their way. I just don't know right now the way they look. Right now, ever since Mattingly got in, it's it's a turnaround. But at the same time, I just think the Phillies are. We'll see against Pittsburgh, and we'll see against LA. At the end of the month.
Exactly. Well, and also working against them too is that they're in the NL, right? If they were in the AL, they'd be right in the thick of the playoff hunt right now in any of the divisions. Even AL East, they could still be in a wild card spot. But if you look at the NL, obviously, like I said, they're 9 games behind Atlanta, but the entirety of the NL Central is ahead of them. All 5 teams, are ahead of them. You've got the San Diego Padres and the Dodgers out in the West. Arizona's been struggling recently, but we talked about their rosters and Batty. That you've got a lot of teams ahead of you that you have to jump just to get even into a wild card spot.
Yeah, wild card. The 3 wild card spot. Yeah.
So they have a bit of a tougher go in that regard as well. But certainly more than early enough to
Catch
get
up,
there.
yeah. They have the time, and they have to. They have the time. They have to rally, and if they rally, I like their chances in October. I really do. I do like their chances if they get into the one of the wild card spots. I do like their chances because of the experience, playoff experience they got. Even though the problem with Philadelphia is going to be their bullpen, it will always be their bullpen. Like that's the first and foremost thing that will be a problem. I know the offense had been struggling until this recent stretch as well, but that's the thing about their offense. They try to hit the long ball and they don't play small ball enough.
Well, that's the thing. Timely hitting, I think, is the key. It's not their hitting in general. It's timely hitting that's the issue.
Yeah, and that's like Baltimore's issue. It's a lot of these teams are around like 18 and 23, 19 and 23, like the Phillies and Orioles are. That's a lot of these teams' issues right now is getting the timely hit. That is the issue there. So I'm rooting for them, beat them because I like when Philly's competitive. And I like that core. I've always been a fan of Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, in that core there. So I wanted them to see them do well, but we'll see what happens. Maybe if Mike Trout is, on the deadline, even though I think he's got the no trade clause, and it's very unlucky he gets traded. But hey, if he's on the deadline, I know a team in Philadelphia that would, he's an Eagles fan. He's from the area. They probably would make a push for Mike Trout, the way he's playing right now. So
yeah.
They probably would. That'd be the interesting thing to keep an eye on July if the Angels keep on plummeting in the standings and Trout is like, all right, let's do it. But I just don't think Trout's going to do that. I think he's going to stay an Angel his whole career. I think he's said it before. But you never know. I think Trout might want to try and do something, but that's something to keep an eye on, of course. For Philadelphia, because they could use another bat. And if Trout is still healthy, and then that's another thing to keep an eye on is Mike Trout's health, because he hasn't been healthy the last couple of years. But this has been his best season in the last about 3 or 4 years, I think, Mike Trout. So far. So
the good news is if he does get traded, he can go from a choking regular season team to a choking playoff team.
Hey, at least he'll get some
move up a step.
He'll get some playoff experience. We'll see. I mean,
maybe had to throw that little dig in there.
Yeah, that's a dig. I know. I knew it was a dig. Hey, man, that's the thing. All right, let's move on. We talked enough about the Phillies.
Absolutely.
We'll find out what the Phillies are in the next few weeks here. But let's talk about something. Today's Mother's Day, as I highlighted earlier. And I just wanted to highlight a few moments in Mother's Day MLB history. The first one I'm going to highlight is the Dallas Braden perfect game for the Athletics in 2010. That was a special Mother's Day moment that I will probably never forget for the rest of my life. Braden is now in the Athletics broadcasting team. He's probably, going to be and he always has talked about, he wasn't the greatest pitcher, Dallas Braden, but he come out on Mother's Day 2010 and dealt his best performance ever. Went the 9 innings, got 27 up, 27 down. I'm gonna pull up some stats from the game from real quick on that day. Do you see here? I'm going to pull it up real quick too. May 9th. So it was yesterday in 2010. So about 16 years ago yesterday, Dallas Braden had that perfect game and everything like that. He 6 strikeouts, only took him 100. It took him 109 pitches in that game. with the 6 strikeouts. His mother, found his mother had died before the game and stuff like that. Not, I was trying to think. Yeah, no, as a teenager, he lost his mom to, he did it for his mom who died when he was a kid. When it was a kid, everything like that, and his grandmother was there. His grandmother, the embrace post game with his grandmother was special. But yeah, 77 strikes, 109 total pitches in that game, 6 strikeouts. Not the most strikeouts for a perfect game, but that's the thing with perfect games. Most of them are like come down to defense making great plays behind them. And I'm trying to remember in my head if there was a special defensive play like the Burley with their main die or Matt Cain. The Matt Cain one with a couple of those catches from, I can't remember the outfielder's name for the Giants, but there was a couple of crazy catches in that perfect game. But we're talking about Dallas Braden. Your thoughts on the Dallas Braden perfect game?
Yeah, no, I thought that was a fantastic. I think that's probably the most memorable Mother's Day moment in recent history, at any rate. I would say is that game. I mean, I think that's one of the ones that you think of immediately when you think of Mother's Day, major moments. I loved it for him. I love seeing a perfect game anyways, but I think just all the circumstances as you outlined, were just such a special moment for him, for his family, and for everybody at that stadium. It felt different, it felt like it was meant to be that day, which is pretty awesome. I was going to say, so one that I had highlighted for Red Sox fans, specifically, would be 2007. There was actually a lot of pretty impressive moments in 2007. Actually, there was a few different things happened that Mother's Day. But the Red Sox Mother's Day miracle against your Baltimore Orioles, actually, unfortunately at Fenway Park. Going into the ninth, down 5-0, hadn't really done much of anything against your starter. It was Guthrie, I believe, at the time.
It was Jeremy Guthrie, I think it was.
Yeah, we ended up making that comeback, scored 6 runs in the bottom of the ninth to win that game. And it sort of, that game, sort of started some of the jokes and talk about how, Boston sort of doesn't lose on holidays. Right, that game made because they were always winning on Patriots Day, and the marathon they would win like a bunch of holidays, and that comeback sort of cemented the running joke for a long time. But the Red Sox, like, oh, anytime there's a special day, the Red Sox are gonna find a way to win, So that's the one I remember the most, just because of how improbable it was. I mean, Guthrie was dealing against us, and just all it took was a little bloop here, a little dribble there, and all of a sudden, the game looks totally different.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good one. That's a good one to think about, too. Lewis also in 2007 hit for the cycle as well that day for it was against the Rockies for the Giants. Fred Lewis began the season in AAA, but then he returned to the bigs. 3 days later, just after his fourth start, hit the first cycle of the 5 for 6 performance on that Mother's Day. Also in 2007, like you said, 2007 was a big day for Mother's Day. Toy Hunter had one of his career. He had 7 RBIs on that day as well. Then you have Jack Cuss, I think it is. Yeah, Cuss.
Yeah, walked off the Indians at the time. Now Guardians, Indians at the time. I believe they walked them off.
Yeah. That was another one. There's I'm trying to think. Yeah, but the Dallas Braden one is going to be one that everyone remembers. Then you got the Harper and the Nats versus the Cubs. They walked them. They walked them like several times in a game intentionally. In that game, and then Baez walks it off. Harper was walked 6 times in that game. 3 of them were intentional, including a 12th inning that loaded the bases with 2 outs in that game. The Cubs escaped the 12th inning, then Baez walked it up. So that was the 2016 Cubs that won the World Series that year. That's a lot of these moments that I see, like the 2007 moment that you brought up with the Red Sox.
Yeah,
That
they
was the
won
year.
the World Series.
That was their second World Series year. And then, like I said, like teams there, but most of them, like the recent ones, like Jahami Jones cracked his first career home run 24 on Mother's Day. Brandon Nimmo with his walk off on that same 2024 season. It's just a few of those moments, but nothing's ever going to top Dallas Braden Mother's Day. I don't think nothing's going to really top that off. But there's Mother's Day in baseball is one of those special days with the pink bats and the pink gear. Yeah, that everyone wears, the pink the pink labeling on the jerseys and stuff like that. I just love how baseball embraces Mother's Day, embraces the moment of Mother's Day, and makes it special.
Absolutely.
And because it's because you used to have it for Father's Day. I don't know if they do it for Father's Day anymore with the blue bats and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you used to have that, but I just don't think they don't. It's not they don't care about Father's Day. I think they still have like the blue, sleeves and stuff like that at times, but they just don't do the blue bats anymore like they used to.
Yeah.
I guess they just wanted to keep it one or the other, and the pink bat is always going to be
iconic. Yeah, which is why when I think of Mother's Day walk-offs too, when the Bill Hall walk-off was way back 2006, and you picture the pink bat that he swung, to hit that walk-off. I mean, I think the imagery of like the pink bats and the pink wristbands and the pink sleeves and everything on Mother's Day, it just it makes some of these moments all that more memorable.
Yeah. Ryan Howard in 06 is another one. He was in the hospital the night before, food poisoning. Comes off the bench, gets the game time pitch hit home run for the Phillies on that day, and saved them on the road in Cincinnati. The Hall one, the Bill Hall for Milwaukee. You just highlighted a lot of
come 10 miles, 10 hours or something to see that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the Orioles game, I was like, I don't remember. I didn't remember that one until you brought it up, and I'm like, ugh, that's not a great one to remember.
I think there's a reason you blocked that one out. Yeah. That one was pretty brutal for you. For me, it was wonderful.
It was wonderful. I mean, that 2007 Red Sox team that played the Rockies in the World Series was an impressive team, and I figured. I mean, that's the thing. You can tell 5-0 down, bottom of the ninth. Yeah, they had the bats to come back.
I credit that Red Sox team for sending the Rockies spiraling to what they are now. I will take that credit. That'll be
because they had a couple
of Red Sox cap there.
They had a couple playoff chokes after that World Series,
that's true.
They didn't have the same. Momentum. They've never made it back since. That Tulo Cargo duo, young Tulo Cargo, Todd Helton, one of his last hurrahs. One of his last seasons, and then like a couple others on that Rockies team, and it was that Rockies team was fun, but that. I think starting that with that 2000 Mother's Day miracle catapulted. With that being said, I think we've reached the end of the show. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
No, I can't think of anything else. Did you have anything specific you were thinking to highlight that we haven't talked about?
I don't think so. I can look at a couple like the Connor Griffin hit his third home run of the year today.
Yeah,
in that game. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else. He's staying hot. He's been hot the last few games. I'm trying to think what else has been like. We already highlighted pretty much everything. Big like the Yankees. The Yankees losing in that sweep of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
From today, Baltimore struggles again. I mean, Adley's been performing well since he came back from injury. He's a dark horse. He's becoming slowly a dark horse. But the thing is, if Baltimore don't win enough games, if they don't start winning ball games, he ain't going to be anything. And the fact that he ain't going to be in the running. Aaron Judge is still hitting the ball well. Ben Rice has been a recollection. I saw when I was going to bring up the Yankee series if we had the pod a couple weeks ago with the Orioles and the Yankees. And Ben Rice hit like 2 home runs in that series. And they were like, really good swings, even though, it's a short porch out there. Bellinger had a great game in, I think, the second game of the series of the 4. Had a 2 home run performance. So, yeah, the Yankees, I think the Yankees are probably going to be the team in the AL unless proven otherwise.
Yeah, I agree.
I like the Rays and what they're doing, and if they can compete with New York long term, I would like it. Obviously, rooting for Cedric Mullins, and I like Chandler. I like Chandler Simpson's game. I really do. Watching his highlights, I like watching him play. And Cameron Arrow, good team in Tampa. I just don't think it's going to stack up to when I watch that Orioles Yankees series. I'm like, bruh. If they get hot, there's no one in baseball that maybe other than the Dodgers that can keep up offensively wise of what the Yankees can do. So
I agree with that.
I think that's the only things I wanted to bring up was more Yankees, a little bit more Yankees Orioles talk because they play again next week. I think they play in Baltimore.
Interesting.
And then they're split next week. I think it was another 3-game set. I want to say.
Yeah.
I think it's a 3-game set in Baltimore this week. Yes, it's a 3-game set starting Monday, starting tomorrow, and then the Baltimore Nats Beltway series starts. So the middle of May. Then it's another Baltimore Tampa road set, and then Baltimore's got a homestand that's going to be interesting. I'm going to the one on Saturday the 30th against Toronto.
Oh, nice. There you go.
I'm going to be going to that game live. So in Camden, be my first time in Camden in like about 20 years.
Oh, wow.
About actually 21 years. I think I went on 05. Last time I went was 05. So
nice. That'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
Great ballpark.
Great ballpark. I missed it. It'll be a great ballpark. So I don't know if we'll have an episode because I'll be coming home that night. Kind of a deal. I might try to do that. We might have an episode of the baseball pod, and stuff like that. I know probably that weekend, the 29th, I might not be on that round table, which we'll go ahead and promote some of the other stuff real quick. Like, comment, subscribe, tell Apex Media. We started the new sports pod round table, and stuff like that. So like I said, that we'll be doing that for the Friday shows now, where we have like a 1 or 2 topic kind of a discussion. First one went okay. This week, hopefully we get to discuss the coaching in NBA. Does it matter? Does it not matter? Nick had a last minute thing. We were going to do it last week or on Friday, and we just couldn't get it done. We've got the Limited Range pod tomorrow with me, Jacob, and Shane, and everything like that. Be the NBA draft lottery that happened this afternoon. A couple of the game, talks about the games. So we'll definitely be talking about the Knicks and Sixers getting that sweet, and talk about a couple of other things as well. We'll be also talking about the WNBA action that's happened over the weekend with the Aces, especially being the one of the worst losses for the defending champ ever. That 33-point loss over the week against the Mercury. Trying to think what else is going to be covered on the WNBA. I'm going to definitely be talking about that Fever Wings game. That was a fun game to watch. Cutting down the wire. Really fun game on that. On tomorrow's show. Then we got the wrestling pod this week. Recapping the Backlash event over the weekend. And among other news that Nick will come up with. Got an interesting list this week. I'll go ahead and spoil that as well. Me, Jerry, and Nick will be ranking the top superstars, men and women's. I think in currently in the WWE right now as our top 5 list and stuff like our top. I think we might be doing 10. I'm not 100% sure. But stay tuned for Thursday for that and everything like that. And like I said, next week we got Off the Wall. Hopefully be back. I think, like I said, the end of the month, it'd be a weird scheduling with me going to Baltimore. I want to try to get up early to beat some of the traffic. That following on that Saturday, so I might not have the sports pod. I might not be on it. I might let Andrew run it and see what if he wants to do something with that on that Friday. But that won't be till the 29th. So I will still be here hosting most of these pods all the way through the 29th, and I think I'll definitely do something on the 31st, and we might have pod on the 31st. So now thinking about it, I think I'm going to try to come home that night. Not stay in a hotel or anything like that because I got to go back to work that following Monday. So I'll come home that night after the game. And then what I'll do is I'll talk about my moments and stuff like that. We'll have a little segment on the show talking about my experience at Camden and stuff like that.
Definitely.
That'll be something to look forward to throughout the whole shebang. So yeah, with that being said, like, comment, subscribe to Total Apex Media for more pods like this one. Also follow Total Apex Sports for more information on some of the stuff we had on MLB, NBA, all that's good stuff. Go ahead and promote your socials, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. So as always, my X Twitter handle is right on the screen. I also post on Instagram. I have some stuff on TikTok, Mastodon, Blue Sky, pretty much any social media. I'm there somewhere. So definitely check it out. When I do write articles, I'm on the video game side mostly now. Every once in a while, I'll pop in to help sports as needed, but primarily I'm on video games and entertainment. So if you're interested in any of that, definitely check that out as well. And I'm also thinking about starting a little bit of this is sort of a personal blast, I guess, but on my TikTok, potentially doing fragrance content there, like colognes and stuff like that. Nice. I have a bit of a cologne collection going on, so feel free. That'll be intermixed with some of my video game stuff on there as well. So feel free to check that out if you have any interest in fragrances at all. So,
yes. My X is on the screen at 30B Ellis. Ellis Highlight Reel on TikTok and YouTube as well. _B Ellis 32 on Instagram, or I'll have some of my articles I'll share on there. Once I get back to it, I'll get back in the swing of things. I've just needed some mental away from writing, but I wanted to keep these pods kind of in flow and get them going and try to get some good content podcast wise for you guys. But I'll get back to the Total Apex writing here shortly. Maybe get some stuff out this week and next week and so forth and so forth. So I'll be back on the grind of writing. Most of my writing will be on Total Apex Sports. So as you can see below. So with that being said, everybody, we Off the Wall episode 5, of the full show. We might have another, shorter format episode next week to make up for this time. Just, stay tuned for that. It may be like a 30-minute thing. Might be. You never know. All right, guys. Peace out, everybody.
Take care.